So I'll call the meeting to order. The first order of business is financial reports. Nicole, is there? Yeah.
So I had to bring them here. So and I forgot to send them to everyone electronically. So sorry about that. It's a turnover meeting.
Yeah, no problems.
Not real much going on. Sale, expenditures. The registrar, whole department's going to be going over by. So that's something we expect. Hopefully, $20,000. I think we get a little bit of money. And it has a lot of vehicle and equipment costs this month. He said that anything could go wrong. So I think he probably talked to you guys. No?
Yeah, he gave me a heads up. Yeah.
You guys have any questions? Some of the ARPA money is starting to be spent. We put out a deposit for that UTV trailer for the fire department.
The opioid settlement funds, how did that was that an airdrop for $3,000 out of the millions that the state ended up with?
Yeah,
or?
well, it doesn't really tell you how much you're going to get.
Yeah, and some of it was.
So I think in addition to this, we have some money from last year.
Yeah. But there's a portion that was allocated. It all went to the state, and then the state said, hey, the municipalities should get something as well, and then they kind of whacked it up, is my understanding, just from the press. So we didn't get anything but a check, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's no obligations on how we spend the money, correct? It's just general fund money?
There is.
So is it LYSB type stuff? Or?
My recommendation would be,
yeah.
Give it to LYSB for some of their programs on drugs and then to be on the radar, us having to run it.
Yeah. Right.
So that'd be up to, I think, the people want.
So next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Nicole? Comments, etc.? Great. Thank you. So everyone should have gotten their packet, and as part of that, Michelle was kind enough to allocate specialist assignments based primarily on last year. So I had no revisions to last year, and there haven't been change of folks and that sort of thing. So if anyone has any desires to change, I'll entertain them publicly or privately. And however people would like to communicate, that's great. So if there are any folks that would like to publicly change, I'll entertain that.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
And then saying none of that, if anybody does want to reach out to me, over the next couple of weeks, next meeting I'll fill people in, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. So thank you very much for that, Michelle. Yep, appreciate that. Old business. I don't think we have any old business, do we? Tim, Martha? Be sure the items to cover are under new business, right? Anybody else have any old business they'd like to discuss? That's great, thank you. New business.
I just have a letter that came from Joanne. We can wait for the next meeting to discuss it if you have those.
You know what? Yeah.
I don't know that I...
Was this presented to the selectmen as well, or no?
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you have a meeting and
It's not there.
Well, it's directed, the letter's addressed to Nicole.
Yeah, well, I asked her, she came into my office after a meeting and said, did you get a copy of that? because he wanted, that the board voted, just had voted to do this, and so they didn't have enough money in the operating budget. And so I said, well, write something up and request it from the Board of Selectmen, and then kind of go through the chain, but she said she'd rather give it to me and have it.
So for the benefit of folks on the phone, the bottom line is the last paragraph, which is we voted to request, the concern is we've lost a lot of trees, and so the commission discussed increasing tree coverage in some manner, and it says we voted to request $1,500 to purchase a minimum of 400 to 500 plants for advertising, for printed instructions, and for any other costs associated with the sale, with the supplies for planting to be determined. So it's a request for $1,500 is the way that I read that, right?
Yes.
And would that be over and above their current budget in this year, or
That would be over and above her budget for this year. I asked.
thinking spring plantings of some sort?
Right, we had a discussion on whether she could absorb it. She didn't think so because she had a lot of, picking trees that they wanted to do stuff with. So, I mean, you can do additional appropriation, you can wait and transfer money at the end of the year if they go over. I mean, that's the up to you guys.
It's a
Another thing that she mentioned up above, watering is a big problem.
Yeah.
And one wonders if we might buy a used watering trailer of some sort. They usually have baffles in them, and you could fill it from a stream with a pump and then spray, because, they're talking about to water trees, you have to spend $50 per tree per visit and stuff, and if we had a trailer with like a 250-gallon tank or a 500-gallon tank, that might be something.
Now, a $3 tree is like this big. So,
Right.
So those were like $700 trees that they were.
Yeah, they were
originally
full-size
talking.
trees.
The money they're requesting now is to do a sale to benefit, to raise money. So they're asking for the money up front to have a sale. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have to read a little bit more.
Thank you.
Went for the dollars.
Yeah, I went for the dollars. Oh, $1,500, that's fine.
Right,
And then-
to buy the trees, to buy the small
Thought it
plants,
was
to
like
sell, to raise money,
time,
is
sell,
what they want to do in the big picture.
Well, in Soundview, we had water grass, which was a real chore. So it might be something that if we could locate such a contraption, it would be pretty handy.
But then who would do it? And who are we going to pay to do it?
Yeah.
If we did, you see them in Niantic. There's, I think, volunteers that go around and water all the hanging plants.
Yeah, the city does it.
And New London does it as well.
Yeah.
They do a great job of it, but it's
Yeah.
not done by the city. It's
What
done.
they're proposing here, if we actually read it, is that the sale, that they would sell these seedlings to people in the community who would not only be purchasing it, but they would actually be sort of fostering that seedling of planting it where they're directed to and then watering it and taking care of it around town.
I
It's
think
the idea.
more involved than I expected.
That's exactly what she said. The goal is to get saplings and sell them, a modest cost to get reimbursed, and to have people plant them in their yard, on their property, and water them and all of that. It's not like a big town project.
Right.
Okay, we were talking about the watering wagon.
Right.
So the other way to do it is through the budget process for these particular trees that she's talking about as well. But if we're talking about $1,500 for a spring sale that would go towards that, and then she's got an additional line item in there for new trees, because I don't remember.
Nicole, she has a line for tree other miscellaneous for $1,800. That's 0% spent.
Yeah, and that's what I told her. I said, well, let's just pay out of that and see if your department can cover it or not.
It may be treatments that she wants to do on existing trees.
But if she's thinking of selling them, theoretically, she's going to make the $1,500 back.
Or at least break even,
Well, I asked her that.
yeah.
They didn't think it was for all the costs.
But that doesn't matter, because that's, for the budget purpose, because
Right.
this is expenditure, so
Right.
she would.
There would be a slight revenue item that would offset it slightly, but that would be in the revenue.
It would be in the revenue section,
Right.
yeah.
We'll talk growth.
So, maybe she comes before the selectmen, and you guys figure out a plan of action. It doesn't sound like it's overly complicated, but, yeah. Okay. One item of new business. Second item of new business?
Yes, we have been working on staffing, and we have things to report upon. The first thing I want to talk about is the executive assistant to the first selectman. We advertised that. We thought we had one outstanding candidate, but that person, her pricing was beyond our reach. I don't know if I mentioned it in a prior meeting, but this individual is a executive assistant to 4 clinical doctors up in Middletown, and so we said, well, she sounds like she has great credentials, and we said we'd like to offer you something, and she said, nice try. Her threshold was about $80,000, so we said, ooh. So we kept looking, and we've actually are structuring a deal with Katie Balaka, who some of you may know at the library, and Katie has been with the library for 12 years as a development assistant, administrative assistant to the director. She handles yearly fundraising and was part of the capital campaign for the $3 million renovation project. She also does maintaining databases, donor relations, community outreach, maintaining library and community calendars, board and committee reports, annual audit and budget prep, electronic content for cost. So she's pretty much all over the place, and I think she's extremely well regarded, that anyone who knows her. And then she's also been involved locally as a co-chair of the Lima Lime Friends of Music and the former co-president of the Center School PTO, and she's on the board of the Lime Historical Society. So she and her husband and family live in Witchwood, I think it is, and so he's been the fixture for a good many years. So after some arm wrestling and so forth, the Board of Selectmen actually had a meeting. Prior to that, there was this Personnel Search Committee, which included the Board of Selectmen and the Salary Committee of the Board of Finance, which includes myself and Mr. Kelsey and Mr. Russell. And so we considered all the options and what these positions are commanding, and we had some input also from Sonia Greenhagen, who's our brand new human resource person. So we made a motion at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, which was put forth by the 2 selectmen, and that we would hire the executive assistant starting on the 3rd of January at a salary of $63,000, which would be 35 hours a week. And that is, an enhanced salary compared to some, but as we talked to various people who are closer to this situation, executive assistants, they handle confidential information, they take projects and run with them, try to get them down the road to conclusion. And so it's a pretty responsible position. And with the salary, that would mean that, yeah, if one had to work a little later, that would not necessarily be an impediment. So what we're talking about in terms of this compensation, so the motion was made, seconded, and recommended to the Board of Finance. I did a little work, and I think the salary line in the budget for the wages has about $66,000 remaining. So that includes Michelle here as well as this new position, and it would appear that we underspend this year's budget by about $4,600 with the enhanced hours for Michelle and the enhanced hours for the new position plus the compensation I discussed. Obviously, next year, this would be a notch up because Michelle Noren was at a lower rate, so that would be something that we'd have to face next year in the 24 budget. So I think that we really don't need any additional funding for this position because we have been without Michelle Noren since the early part of September, and that created some extra help there. But mindful that come next year, there'll be a couple of upticks in the salary category. So that's where we are with that particular hire. I can go on about some others. Want to pause and talk about this?
Any questions at all? Tim, one thing that we didn't clarify on our call, and I don't know whether it was raised because it's always delicate, can't be part of the hiring decision, but benefits. Would benefits be different from?
No.
Okay.
No.
So it's just the salary that we're talking about next fiscal year that would be different.
Yeah, I think the way the personnel book reads is after 6 months, you're entitled to 5 days vacation, and you start earning.
No, in terms of need for health care, that's the largest driver. So if you've got, and I'm just thinking budget-wise, yeah.
I think it'll be more because based on coverage.
Is it a 2+ or family?
Well, Noren was 2 people.
She was 2+,
Family,
yeah.
so it's a lot more than.
Pardon?
Yeah, so this new one would be a family, and that's an increase from the 2-person. But not having Michelle Noren here for a couple months, maybe that'll offset it. I don't.
Well, Katie's kids are grown, though.
Medical.
They're under 26.
They're under 27,
Oh.
they can still be on.
She's got 2 more years.
I guess you go to 26 years of age for dependents,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure.
Unless they have a
I
job.
don't know about dependents.
Man, children.
We're going to raise it to 30 soon.
So there may be.
I don't expect insurance to go over though.
But
Okay.
We have a.
it's more, but as Tim said, it could be more of an, or David said, it's going to be more of an impact for next year,
Yeah.
the salary and benefits.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you never know when you hire somebody, and that's not part of it.
Right.
It could be no insurance needed, or it could be,
Yeah, it's either
The hot-
7,000 or 26.
yeah,
You know?
or zero. You know.
Or it could be 0.
Yeah, it could be zero.
But we give people $3,000 if they don't take insurance.
So, yeah.
Minimum 3.
Yep. It kind of is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions of,
I've got a few more to talk about.
well, of Katie?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Great, thank you.
The next position which has been filled is the human resource, Sonia Greenhagen. And I think I made mention of her resume and so forth at the last meeting, but she's been in human resource work for, I think, close to 30 years. And she she caught a little bit of COVID, so she's been out for a few days and she's back. And so she's hitting the road running on all our matters here. So E2, we have in the selectmen's budget, there's around $31,008 for payroll and HR consultant, and with projecting her compensation as a part-time 25 hours a week, that would equate to about $26,250, I believe. So that should leave around $5,500 and change available for the actual payroll consultant, the Randy Frank stuff. So she's actually working with us and helping out right now with things, and I think this will be a great relief to a number of us who have been struggling with HR things and Family Leave Act and all that. We've been having a blizzard of activity in this area. Speaking of Randy Frank, the projection from the consulting company is that to take what we have and get us to the finish line, which would include the wage and classification study, would probably be about $9,000 to get us review the positions that we have, job descriptions, and do these surveys, which would include 35 positions as a projection. So were that to be the case, even with another 10% on top just for extra step, close to $10,000, we'd be around $4,300 short on that line item. There are maybe other ways to skin the cat with that deficiency, but the two combined, it's not totally covered at this point. I think we want to proceed with the Randy Frank because all these things were coming up with compensation numbers that are not based on current surveys and so forth. So we're hoping that as we do this, we're putting people properly where they should be, and we won't have overpaid or underpaid too much. And I expect that the Randy Frank activity would be accomplished during the budget season, so we should have pretty good data as we look to the next fiscal year. So that's where we are with that one. Any questions on HR? The next one is Registrar of Voters. Mary Lynn Clark has decided to step down from being the Democratic Registrar of Voters, and statute says that the deputy ascends to that position for the balance of the term, which goes to June of 25. So no real change there. However, the deputy registrar, Jen Datum, is the social services coordinator, and that is and will become ever more an important position as we go forward. The hours for that position are something like 620 hours, which is pretty skinny. It's kind of on demand. She does have certain hours to be available to people, but I think there's a lot of appointments. But some of these cases become more involved. I know that she was involved in a hoarding situation and had to deal with an individual locally whose family was not from the area, and so that's a big tangle. So 600 hours can be used up pretty quickly. So we can ask Jen as we come on the corner, because she will be doing this through the end of the year, because the retirement of Ms. Clark will be January 1st. But social services, we have put it on the website, and there are at least 2, maybe 3 people who are interested in the position. So we'll have to put together an interview group to figure that out, because it is a very important position. I think many of you know there are a lot of donated funds at the disposal of the social services person. The concept is, this is not a monthly help me out thing. It's supposed to be, we'll give you some fuel for your furnace, we'll do this or that or the other thing, but we're not going to be seeing you every month. So it's a very delicate thing, and people have pretty pressing needs, but it has to be non-recurrent help. And youth services is involved to help out as well. And there are many, I remember years ago we had a symposium in this room, and we had, 15 or 20 different organizations, Warm the Children, and there are just a lot of different agencies that can bring help to people. So it isn't as if you're just an island with your little cookie jar to help out locally. So we will be looking to fill that position as we get to the end of the year. In the tax department, the tax assistant, Alexandria English, she will be departing at the end of the year, and that is an inopportune time to have a vacancy occur in the tax department with taxes coming in pretty heavily in January. So we think we have a candidate who will be willing to work out on that. But that too is on the website. So if people are aware of anyone who would like part-time, the way it works is during the tax collection period, which would be a little bit of December and January to February, a little bit, that's kind of like full-time. And then you get into the spring when you have June, July, and into August. That's full-time. And the rest of the time, it's probably half-time. So it's a unique schedule, but people might find it interesting to do that. So it's something that is pretty important to us. And the last piece is in Public Works. Don Sanders, a.k.a. Shotgun, is retired at the end of the year. So Public Works will be looking for a new Public Works employee to replace Don. And hopefully we'll have some recognition for him. By the by, there will be something for Mary Lynn Clark Thursday at the Senior Center. I think it's 4:30 at the Senior Center?
4:30 to 6 at the Senior Center. It's a $10 down.
Yes. So anybody who would like to go congratulate her on her retirement, that will happen. And I haven't heard about Mr. Saunders, and hopefully he welcomes a little recognition, because he's been around for a good many years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Families would like the invitation to Maryland and Christy and I'll forward it to you. We'd love to have you drop.
Hey, David, this is BJ. Let me remind everybody that Mary Lynn was the town attorney for God knows how long, years and years.
Yeah, long time.
So, her service to the town has been very lengthy.
Thank you, BJ.
So that's the personnel front.
That's a good update. Very thorough.
That's pretty much it.
Progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, good news. Yeah.
Yeah, good updates.
Great. Any other new business from anyone? Move on to regular minutes of the 18th and the and then 18th of October, and then the 15th of November. I had no revisions when I looked through these this afternoon, so I'll give everybody a minute or two. We'll start with October 18th.
David, have the October 18th minutes been revised from those that were distributed previously?
Not to my knowledge. I don't think they were.
They are, the changes are.
Yeah, I'm reminded in the minutes for November 15 that we...
Oh, that's correct.
Yeah, we tabled the October 18th minutes pending further elaboration, so my question is, do we have that?
We don't have the revised October 18th minutes. So,
no, I'm not sure that the minutes needed to be revised, but we tabled them requesting more information, probably regarding the police expenditures. I'm just taking a look now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were looking for clarification on the expenditures.
Have we received any from the police department?
Yeah, Matt Ward is in the audience as well. So.
Oh, sorry, Matt. But Dave, have we received clarification?
I have not, subsequent to our November 15th meeting, received anything. So if we were to...
Forward you a couple emails, did you receive those or no?
I don't think so. Yeah.
I forwarded you that note, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
Matt,
the bills have been paid, right?
Yes, yeah.
So it's, because that's one of the yellow highlighted lines.
Matt, was it the night of the 15th of November?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Did you say so?
What was that?
I was talking about some miscommunication.
Yeah, I would agree with that, yeah.
And a timing issue,
And the timing.
right?
Okay. Did you send it to the full board?
No, I sent it to you directly.
Okay, I apologize. So I guess with that clarification, that it was a miscommunication of sorts?
There were several invoices, a lot of invoices over that time period, and we didn't know until the October meeting which one for the November meeting, which one it was and what the status was, but it's all been paid, and a lot of it is just miscommunication at the time.
So it shouldn't hold up our approval of the October 18th minutes?
I would agree.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the October 18th, 2002 minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Great. November 15th minutes.
Like on the first page, there was like information on the financial reports. I mean, I didn't even really say anything. So should that really even be there? Does it seem like I presented something, or are you guys okay with it being like that? I kind of feel...
I mean, minutes are oftentimes very summarized, and if you didn't say it, then we should reflect what actually happened. So I think, Michelle,
Well, just attach, you don't have to put anything, just have the financial report.
yeah, so to the extent, because it's implied that you may have presented this.
Right.
And so instead, we can say that the financials were provided, that's a great word,
And reviewed.
and reviewed, and no questions ensued, and the financials are made part of the minutes or something like that.
All that in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Want to attach the report to the minutes?
What's that?
Do you want to attach
Yeah, that's fine.
to the minutes
That's fine.
to be put online?
Well, if we do that, we haven't done that typically in the past.
It's a big document.
So that's kind of that would be a big change, so, and it's not necessarily required. So I think if we simply state what actually happened was, the financial reports were provided.
Yep.
And questions, and were reviewed. No questions ensued, and that's it. That's all we need. Yeah.
I'll feel better, because I feel like.
Yeah, because you got discrete numbers here and. Yeah, and it makes your life easier too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, that is one revision. Any others that folks have? You had enough time to take a look? Great, so I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of November 15th as revised.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Great.
Dave, I abstained, was not there.
Okay, thank you, Jude.
Okay.
Selectmen's report.
Okay, the Halls Road Committee is expecting bids to be delivered on the RFP for engineering for the bridge and the approach to the bridge Wednesday, I understand. So there'll be an opening, I think, at 2 o'clock to see what comes of that. And this would be for the engineering outfits to submit proposals for the design work, not the actual work itself. The Soundview District has been delayed from consideration by the Zoning Commission because the attorneys are trying to reconcile different points of view between each other. I think the attorney for the committee and the attorney for zoning are in sync, but they're not totally there yet. And the Planning Commission also was out separately, but still an important link as well. So I think there's been some discussion outside of the Zoning Commission to try to get everybody on the same page. And I think talking with various officials, it seems like that's moving in the proper direction. So it wasn't heard this month, but I think January it should be on the agenda. Soundview Sidewalk, the bus shelter has been installed, and there was a dedication a while back. And so things are pretty much done there. There is a couple of punch list items, such as the grass has to grow a little better, and a couple of other things that are minor, but we do have the retainage that would cover these kind of things. So I think once we get into the springtime and make sure the grass is green and all that stuff, then we should be able to close that out. BSC, the engineering outfit, is submitting information to the state about the grant, and I think of the $400,000, there's around $14,000 and change that will be going back to the state of Connecticut, which is pretty good because, when you look at a project like that, it's pretty amazing because when we first started with that, nobody thought that the sidewalks on Hartford Avenue and 156 could be put in for $400,000. And the bid came in at 260 something. So everybody said, well, my God, there's still a bunch of money here. So the bus shelter idea came along, and we were nervous that, if you made commitments to put the bus shelter in, that might exceed the grant total. Well, we came in pretty darn close. So I think that was very good on the part of the committee and B&C and so forth. So that's almost a done deal. Ferry Road sidewalk, trying to have a meeting this week with the property owner of 11 Ferry Road, which is the new white plastic fence along Ferry Road on the right-hand side as you go down, right up against the sidewalk panel. I believe, and I think the engineer believes, that the Mirstone for the sidewalk, the monumentation is a good foot to 8 inches back behind the fence, and therefore I think the outcome is the fence that's got to be moved. There was also an incident where they put an arbor, a big 10-foot thing, I guess, and that was contradictory to the zoning rules, so they yanked that. But I think now they know how to remove things. We have to have the sidewalk thing moved back. So hopefully that'll go smoothly. Swan Brook, we have 2 companies that are giving us proposals to clean out the west pipe of the 2 36-inch pipes. Mr. Garvin, are you familiar with this? And what's involved is that the company, whichever one, will have like a giant pressure washer and go from the Long Island Sound side of things and blast the sand out to find out how far back it is and what's impeding the pipe. I don't think the blockage is that far back. We looked down the pipe and it looked like it was pretty close to the end. So with a little luck, it might be 20 or 30 feet of blockage, which would be wonderful instead of like 100 feet. These guys need water, fresh water, to operate their equipment. So we have talked to Connecticut Water Company. There's a hydrant at the end of Pond Road, which is just at the boundary of Miami Beach there. So a hose could be rigged up to supply water to this equipment so it can do the pressure washing. And I think we'd need to have maybe public works there with a digger so that as the sand comes out of the pipe, they could clear it. And once that's cleaned up, then Mr. Macknick could come in and put the wood crib back together and cross our fingers that this would satisfy things for a number of years. There's ARPA money for this, as we know, so, and there's also some capital money, but hopefully the ARPA money will be sufficient. We won't need the town money. Chatham Hague, Jack Collins, the attorney for the town, thought that there might be a resource with the Attorney General's office to have an Attorney General employee help with mediation on something like this. But that is not to be. So the only other alternative would be to, if you want to try mediation, to have a like typical police work or something, you'd get a retired judge or a retired lawyer that's knowledgeable and so forth, if it's acceptable to both the parties. The other that we put the various people in the rubber room and say, we're going to figure this out and come up with an agreement. We have gotten models of signage that we would like to put up in front of the pillars that would say Hague Landing, the hours of operation, and then inside the gate, it'd be fairly simple. There would be an arrow saying private drive, no entry, another arrow pointing down where the landing goes, so it says landing. And so as that private drive goes around, you'd have a sign at each end of that.
Could you have one that said, "This way to eminent domain"? That's one way to very concretely settle the thing. And so we're in a bit of, with winter now upon us, why this is a good time to do some housekeeping. But there have been, we did mow the grass down the weeds with the flail mower, and that created some sparks with the contractor. So we have been very patient, and I think I call them the abutters, have continued to do little annoying things like putting plants there, or I was down there the other day and I saw a truck lifting some kind of a granite post, which looked like it was going to be planted on what would be the town landing. So
that's not good. They've planted several large bushes and trees, sort of right.
Yeah. But they continue to do little intrusions, and I was for telling Jack, we just get a backhoe down there, dig this stuff up, and dump it on his lawn, and do what you have to do. So it'd be nice to get this resolved, but I really would rather not spend a bunch of money on some $400 arbitrator or mediator. So we'll see. 36-1 Button Ball, the landing, so-called. We have open space, harbor management, and wetlands all participating in talk amongst themselves about what to do. And so far, it's been agreed that there are, I think, 2 or 3 areas where you could park 2 or 3 cars each. And then people could walk from where they park down the old road that the McGowans installed to the edge of the marsh and look out over the marsh and see wildlife and stuff. So that's the easy part. The harder part would be, what do we think about access to the marsh or access to the water? And that, I think, is really problematic, because I think if people have been down there, probably half tide and less, it's mud. And there is a little Horseneck Creek channel. So I don't think it would be proper to try to put a float in the channel, because people might want to use the channel. So if you had a dock and a ramp and a float and it's sitting on the mud a lot, I don't know what we're gaining here. But we're trying to let everybody have a voice and see what comes of it. So the committee is working over the winter to try to get a grip on what to do. Hopefully that'll pan out well. As we all know, District 18, the bond passed, $57.5 million for the school renovation. And there's been, I know, we call it the leadership meeting, where the selectmen and the Board of Finance chairs and school board chair meet. We've been talking about enrollment. Where are we going to be in 3 years, 5 years? Obviously, there was an uptick with COVID, with families moving in. Will that be permanent? Will that go back to where it was, et cetera? I think the school is projecting, about a 300 student enrollment increase over time, from 1,300 to 1,600, I think that's the right number. So we're trying to test that. everyone says, you know, the 57 million is a max, and depending on how things go, we may not spend that much money. But obviously the source of funds given, so I think the building committee is now being formed, so anyone who wants to be on the building committee, they do need somebody with construction experience, but other than that, I think just citizens who would apply, and they'll be evaluated by the Board of Ed, and they'll probably have a 9-member board to work on this project for the next 2 or 3 years, so.
December 23rd is the deadline.
Yeah.
Applications are on the webpage, District 8, you can pop right up.
Are they voting at the next Board of Ed meeting on those applicants, or is that?
Probably in January, I would imagine.
That's the next board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Yeah. Lastly, our trash hauler, CWPM, they picked up our solid waste and recycling and took it to Essex. Miro would take it up to Hartford, but that's over. And now CWPM does the whole thing. So the way it works is we pay $90 a ton for the solid waste going to New London, and then I think it goes to the burn plant in Preston. And then recycling would be based on the quality of our recycling and less a credit for the money we would get for the raw material of the recycling stuff. And so it started out where we our cost for hauling was $140. We received about $92.50 as a credit for the material, and that netted down to around $92.50, which is that was the credit, and therefore we paid around $47.50, which is favorable to $90 a ton. It has since changed, and in August, the credit was only 71. The next month it was 49. The next month it was $14, and this past month it was $17. So,
who's putting pizza boxes in their recycling?
Well, talking with CWPM, they say, you know, the market for recycling stuff is just cratered. And I said, well, maybe we just consider it trash and put it all in $90.
Yeah.
And he said, you can't do that. I said,
Everyone gets a green bucket. Or a blue bucket, rather. There's no green bucket.
You know, we've been beating the drum about recycling and how good it is and saves the town money, so it's a little embarrassing. It's not our fault, but, you know. So they do say this should be just like the stock market, you know, this in time will pass, and it should improve to where maybe it'll get back to what it was, but it's just making a little bit of a rough time on our budget for recycling.
So over what time period, Tim, again, was the drop in the reimbursement from 92 to 50?
Well, we started with it in July, so for July we got $92 credit, and now we're getting...
So in 5 months it's dropped.
17.
It's like $80 almost.
The last 2 months have been horrid.
Why is the price to haul the recycle so much higher than the price to haul the garbage initially?
In terms of why the cost is see, what they do is they have percentage brackets, so we're in a 10 to 15% quality. There's, you know, if you're in the 5 to 10% of the 0 to 5%, you get $5 better each one.
But that's on the reimbursement side. Catherine's
Well,
question
that's
is,
the cost, so it's 140, 135, or 130. It's still in excess of the 90.
are they going somewhere different than New London?
Yeah, they go to Willimantic.
Well, that's why, yeah.
Mileage, fuel.
But that's a question we pose, saying, gee, if you're transporting trash and you're transporting recycling, 90, 140, we did put in the tax bills the thing saying, please do not put your recycling in those white plastic garbage bags and put them in your container, because that they just can't process that. So, we've been really trying to make people think about recycling, but at this point, you say, well, geez. So, I guess we just have to hope that this market will recover, and that, now, here's another thing. We're doing about, for trash, the first month was like 300 tons for the month. And then August was 330, so seasonally, with the beaches. And now it's 230, so, seeing the winter slowdown. And recycling's 106, and now it's 80. So, again, all this stuff slows down. But you can see it's about 3 to 1 between trash to recycling. And under normal circumstances, that 25% recycling would really help us out. Now it's working against us, so I guess at least be comforted that it's a smaller number, tonnage-wise, but...
Until the summer.
Yeah.
Lyme has a lot of open space that we can store the recycling until the market comes back or something.
Actually,
I don't think any plastic recycling market's coming back.
Where's all the cardboard?
Amazon.
Later this week, Norm Needleman over in Essex is hosting a meeting to talk about the Essex transfer station, which is the thing that we take our stuff to and goes to Hartford. But not many towns have jumped ship, so there may be something where that transfer station could be used by all of us to take our stuff there. And if CWPM were the ones, say, to take over, it might shorten the ride instead of going to New London or something. I don't know. That's don't know what's going to happen with that, but because Mira's probably going to go out of business here very shortly for the people who are still using it. So that's about that.
Why'd the DOT take all the trees off of Hall Road?
Yeah, they cleaned them out.
They might fall on the highway.
They were leaning towards Halls Road.
We didn't get any notification about that.
We don't get any notification from those clowns.
I mean, they really cleaned up 156 headed north.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Earlier this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was utility related as
yeah,
well.
Definitely.
Yeah, but this was the big green machines.
Yeah.
That just take the whole tree down and run them through a chipper.
Yeah. They left some beautiful, it was weird, the trees that they took down versus the, 5 spindly looking things.
Oh, it's terrible.
So it's a real shame that the state does not coordinate with the towns, because we have so much town road and they just show up and do random things like put a crosswalk where nobody wants it, that sort of thing. Or we'll use it. I have myself crossed that crosswalk in the 14 years I've been in my office twice. And that was for the VFW because I had to bring the sign over to the truck.
Yeah, that new traffic signal is big wide.
And they're not done with it either.
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they show up with random signs that you got to take down. We got no parking signs on 156 where the slope is like this, And by the way, the no parking it's gone because they put them up like 30 years ago. So.
Yeah, and we'll wait to see if there's any archaeological treasures that have, at the 4 Mile River, 4 Mile River Road and 156, as you go into East Lyme,
Yeah.
all that digging.
Yeah,
How long is that? I mean, it's been going, I go by there every morning.
yeah.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. Well, we had to do that, we had to do an archaeological dig for the Grassy Hill Bridge, which was very brief, but this thing, they've been out there sifting.
they've been there for a long time.
Yeah, there was a captain's house.
Right, and I saw the article in the paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you find some BBs or something?
Fish scale.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions for the selectmen? We got all three here. Great. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
You got beaten to it. No debate. All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Any
Aye.
opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Thank you very much, all.